Welcome to Knowing the Brunei Darussalam Accounting Standards for BDAS 11 Revenue. My name is Fatin from Dynamic Technologies and I will be your vocal guide for today. Revenue should be recognized on sales of goods, rendering of services, interest, royalties, and dividends. Each category will be further described as we go through each scenario as well. The first module is BDAS 11.1 to record sales of goods. It is defined as the significant risks and rewards of ownership of goods has been transferred to the buyer, which means goods must be delivered to buyer. To record the sales of goods, let's assume the following scenario. Power Cendana Berhad completes a sale of $1,000 electrical cable to BBA Trading Company. From here, we can extract that the customer is BBA Trading Company and owner is Power Cendana Berhad. The accounting entries when the good has been transferred will be debit the accounts receivable with $1,000 and credit with the sales of goods with the same amount. At the point when payment is received, in which the transaction will be recorded in the system is that cash will be debited to Power Cendana Berhad with $1,000 and credit the sale of goods with the same amount. This is a customer invoice transaction. This is how the customer invoice transaction will look like in Accounting Plus when you record the entry as per the scenario. Do note the invoice ID for future reference. Moving on to BDAS 11.2 is to record rendering of services. It is defined as the transaction in which it should be recognized to the stage of completion of the transaction. For example, BBA Company rendered services on account with $4,250. In accordance with the service agreement between BBA Company and customer, the amount is to be collected after 10 days. The accounting entries is divided into two. Firstly, at the point of the invoice is issued, debit will be the accounts receivable with $4,250 and credit the services revenue with the same amount. Secondly, at the point when payment is received, cash will be debited to BBA Company account with $4,250 and credit will be services revenue of the same amount. This is a customer invoice transaction. A representation of the transaction will look like this in Accounting Plus. Do note the invoice ID for future reference. Moving on to BDAS 11.3 is to record interest. Interest should be recognized on a time proportion basis. Interest received should be recognized on an accrual basis. Scenario sample is as following. BBA Company receives interest of $10,000 on bank deposit for the month of December 2016 on 3rd January 2017. BBA Company will recognize interest received of $10,000 in the financial statements of year 2016, even though it was received in the next accounting period as it relates to the current period. Following accounting entry will need to be recorded to account for the interest income accrued is the second accounting entries, which is the monthly bank interest received through bank statement. Debit will be cash for $10,000 and credit will be interest received for $10,000. Now let's see how it is being drafted out in Accounting Plus. This is the completed draft of the journal entry transaction scenario for BDAS 11.3. Do note the journal ID for future reference. Next, under BDAS 11.4 is to record royalties, where royalties should be recognized on an accrual basis. Royalties received should be recognized on an accrual basis in accordance with the relevant agreement. The scenario for BDAS 11.4 is as follows. The developer receives royalty income from the licensee. The developer was the licensor and received a royalty at the agreed rate from the publisher. The developer receives the royalty advance of $5,000 from the publisher. From here, we can extract that the developer can also be known as the licensor. The customer and the publisher is the licensee. Following accounting entry will need to be recorded is debit the cash or bank for $5,000 and credit the royalties income for the same amount. This is a customer invoice transaction. A representation of the entry will look like this in Accounting Plus. Moving on to BDAS 11.5 is to record dividend. It should be recognized when the shareholder's right to receive payment is established. Now let's take a look at the scenario. Power Cendana Berhad received a dividend from a subsidiary company at $50,000. Accounting entries for this scenario will be debit the cash for $50,000 and dividend income for the same amount in the credit side. This is a journal entry transaction. Now let's try to draft out this entry in Accounting Plus. A complete draft of the journal entry transaction will look like this. Do note the journal ID for future reference. If you need more help, guidance, or a demo on how to get started, we will be more than pleased to assist you. You may contact us with the following details as shown. Thank you for watching the course video for BDAS 11 Revenue.